Hey, it's Adrian. I'm 34 now, and I've been the one who fixes things in my family for ages. You know, the guy who's always there, using my own money when something goes sideways, or who tries to calm everyone down, who's always around even when no one else is. I've been doing that for years. It wasn't for any credit or anything, but because I truly thought that's what family does. You know, you've got to support each other, even when it's hard, especially then. That's what I thought, and I still thought it even after years of being the second thought. The extra person in all the pictures, usually on the side, cut off, while my younger sister, Emily, was right in the middle, surrounded by my mom and dad like she was the star of the show. She's always been the golden child. Her life always took center stage. Her ballet stuff, her schoolwork where she was accepted for college, who she was dating when she got engaged to Jordan, this guy from a really rich family with the last name Wade. It was a big deal. Suddenly, everything was about making a good impression on his family. My mom was thrilled. She went on and on about connections, how this wedding would be a sign that we could keep up. I mostly just stayed quiet, saying yes when I was asked, pitching in when I could. I didn't see any reason to stir up trouble. Emily hit me up first thing when she got engaged. It wasn't to squeal with excitement or ask me to be a bridesmaid, no. She needed help with the venue deposit just to snag the date, she said. Jordan's folks were covering the rest, she promised. I'd get it back. She didn't even bother asking if it was okay with me. She knew I had the cash. I always did. So like a total idiot, I wired her $8,000 that very night. Then came the catering drama. Apparently, the first place wasn't fancy enough. She called all teary-eyed at 10 o'clock, saying Jordan's mom was threatening to move the whole shebang to some country club if the food wasn't like super high-end. I covered that too, another $4,500. Then it was the photographer, then the flowers, then this ridiculous audio setup for the ceremony. Something about special mics for string quartets. It was getting crazy. The wedding was turning into a freakin' royal wedding, way beyond anything Emily would have planned herself. And I just kept paying. It didn't even occur to me anything was wrong until I overheard Mom on a family call, bragging about how lucky Emily was, gushing about how generous Jordan's family was being, and how amazing this gift was. I waited, hoping someone would mention me, give me a little credit. Nope. Radio silence. That silence became a whole thing. I wasn't invited to the food tasting or the dress fitting or even the rehearsal dinner planning. When I asked Mom about it, she just mumbled something vague. It's just for the closest family, she'd said once. Another time she said, you wouldn't even like it, Adrian. It's all fancy stuff, a bunch of hooey. I told myself I didn't care, that I wasn't doing it for the pats on the back. But honestly, it still hurt. Then 2 weeks before the wedding, a text. No call, no actual conversation, just this cold, emotionless message from my mom. You're not invited to the wedding. Emily's in-laws think it's better if you stay away. No hard feelings. I just stared at my phone for a good minute before it even sank in. I thought it was a joke, some incredibly stupid way of saying I didn't need a suit or something. But nope, I called her, straight to voicemail. I called Emily too, texted them both. Nothing. 3 hours later, another text from Mom. Please respect their wishes. It's not personal. Not personal. I sat there in the dark for a long time after that, phone still in my hand, going over every single dollar I'd sent them, every family thing I'd been left out of, every time I'd ignored that nagging feeling that something was wrong. I remembered the first time Emily needed to borrow money. She was 20 and behind on rent. I didn't even hesitate. Or that time Dad needed a new water heater, I paid for it because his seasonal work check was late. And all those birthdays I spent alone because they were too busy or traveling or just plain forgot. Last year, I still hear my aunt's voicemail in my head. She said, you really hold this family together, you know that? It's crazy because I wasn't even good enough to be in a family photo. So then I texted back, just copy that. That was it. No fighting, no feeling guilty, no pleading to be part of things, just a quiet, yeah, okay. Then I went to my computer. First, I called the wedding place. The booking was under my name. I'd signed everything and paid the deposit. I asked what would happen if I canceled. They were nice, though a little puzzled. They said, you're totally within the time limit to cancel, and there'd be some money back, but the date would be free right away. So I canceled. Same thing with the caterer. They had my credit card info and my signature. I asked about canceling and got some money back. Poof, gone. The DJ, done. The florist, they were actually happy. Emily, my sister, had been changing her mind about the flowers every couple of days, and they were getting fed up. By the time I finished, everything they thought was set was wiped out. But I didn't say a thing to anyone. I just let it be. A few days went by, then a whole week. The wedding was supposed to be Saturday. I knew they'd figure it out eventually, but not from me. I figured they'd be too busy to notice, or too stuck up to believe I'd actually pull the plug. That's the weird thing about always being the responsible one. People think you'll just keep showing up, no matter how many times they slam the door in your face. It was almost peaceful, the quiet, until the wedding day hit. That morning, I went for a stroll, left my phone at home. No texts, no updates, nothing. Just the crunch of leaves and the city buzz in the distance. I took my sweet time getting back. I needed the distance, you know? Some space from whatever mess was brewing. 'Cause I knew. I knew deep down that at that very moment people were piling into a locked-up wedding spot, no chairs, no food, Zippo music, not a single flower. I pictured my Jordan's mom pacing, Emily all teary-eyed, and my own mom trying to reach me, her voice raw with anger and panic. When I finally got home, my phone was practically jumping off the counter. 67 missed calls, 43 texts, 6 voicemails, the whole shebang. The first message was Mom. "Adrian, what the heck did you do? People are arriving and there's nothing here. The place is locked up tight, no food, nobody's answering. Call me." Then Emily, "This isn't funny, Adrian, fix this now. Jordan's parents are furious. You're gonna be sorry if I see you today." I didn't even bother replying. I just sat on the edge of my bed, staring at all those messages like they were in some foreign language. All that worry, all that sudden concern, where was it when I was politely being told I wasn't wanted at my own sister's wedding? Mom's first voicemail was a total meltdown, pure panic. It sounded like she was walking back and forth while she left that message. "Adrian, I have no idea what you think you're doing, but this is seriously wrong. People flew in for this wedding. Do you get how terrible this looks? You need to call the venue right now." Then came Emily. Her voice was shaking like she was about to explode. "I can't believe you do this to me after everything I've done," she practically screamed. "You're ruining the biggest day of my life. This is disgusting, Adrian." I almost chuckled. Everything she'd done for me. My finger hung over the next voicemail, but I didn't hit play. I figured it would be more of the same guilt trips, anger trying to make it seem like I was the bad guy for not secretly paying for their whole fairytale wedding and then disappearing like some kind of cash machine. But I wasn't mad anymore. That's the weird part. For the first time in ages, I felt peaceful, relaxed, like a huge weight had finally lifted. It wasn't about the money, not really. It was about being treated like a person, you know? Someone with limits, feelings, worth beyond my bank account. I made myself some coffee and went out to my little balcony. The sun was bright, the air was crisp and clean. I could hear cars in the distance, the quiet hum of a Saturday, just another day for most people. For me, it felt like a fresh start. Around noon, the phone calls started ringing again. By that point, the venue probably had the guest list, and the whole mess was finally sinking in. I got messages from people I hadn't talked to in ages, mostly family, like cousins and distant relatives. Some were just asking what the heck was happening. Others wanted answers, and a couple even blamed me for messing up Emily's life. But then, there was a message from my Aunt Carla, my dad's sister, one of the few who had always been nice to me. All she wrote was, "I heard. I'm so sorry they treated you like that. If you need anything, I'm here." That was the only message I responded to. By the late afternoon, things were going totally sideways in public. Pictures started popping up online, guests all dressed up outside a locked-up place. Someone got a shot of the "closed for private events" sign, still stuck on the gate, untouched. Another video showed Jordan getting into it with a parking attendant. There was no food, no decorations, no music. Just a ton of confused and ticked-off people. A high school buddy I hadn't talked to in forever sent me a link to a Facebook post from one of Jordan's relatives. It was a super long, angry rant about entitled families and how some people just can't host a wedding and how certain people had ruined a perfect day because they couldn't handle not being the star. I didn't even bother answering. Let them create whatever narrative they needed to make themselves feel good. So then, around 5:12, my phone buzzed again. This time I picked up. It was my mom. "Adrian," she said, her voice all raspy and weak. "We need to talk." There was no love in it, just this frantic, desperate feeling. I just listened. "We're at the hotel," she went on. "Emily's a mess. Jordan's parents are going ballistic. This is a total disaster. You can't just disappear and leave us hanging like this. Why would you do something so heartless?" I took a deep breath, holding the phone tighter than I needed to. "You said I wasn't invited," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I respected that." "That's not what I mean," she snapped. "You knew this wasn't about you personally." "It was personal to me," I said. There was this long pause. I could hear a bunch of noise in the background, maybe Emily yelling, maybe someone crying. Then Mom said real low, "Adrian, they think you did this to hurt her." I let it hang there for a second. "No," I said. This was me finally putting myself first. She started to argue, but I stopped her. Mom, I didn't say a word when you left me out of everything. Not the tasting, not the rehearsal dinner, not even a seat at the wedding. I gave money. I gave my time, I gave my support, and what did I get? A text saying I was a problem to be gotten rid of. That wasn't me. You wrote that text, Mom. You signed your name to it. She didn't say anything after that. It hit me like a ton of bricks. You don't get to decide when I'm important and when I'm not, I told her. You can't just use me for money and then dump me when you're done. I'm your mother, she said, all gentle-like, and I shot back, and I'm your son. Funny how that only seems to matter when I'm paying the bills. Her voice cracked. Adrian, what are we going to do? I just stared out the window at the city lights. The sun was setting, painting the sky that gorgeous gold color that makes you feel both tiny and safe somehow. After a minute, I finally said, I don't know, Mom, but I'm done being your backup plan. Then I hung up. I knew this was just the start. The drama was going to explode. Jordan's family would freak, Emily would scream bloody murder, and Mom would completely lose it. I knew the story they'd spin, the evil older brother who ruined everything. But honestly, I didn't care. I'd finally put my foot down and the real mess hadn't even started. The calls didn't stop, not exactly. They slowed down, changed from a crazy barrage of calls to quieter, sneaky attempts, but they kept coming. Jordan's dad left a voicemail the next day. Ice cold, all business, something about lawsuits and broken promises. It was darkly hilarious. I could picture him sitting there on the golf course dictating that message like I was some lousy contractor, not the guy who'd personally paid for his son's whole fancy life. I didn't bother calling him back. I didn't even flinch. Screw them, let them sue. Let them explain to some lawyer why they ditched the guy who paid for the whole damn thing, then figured he'd just magically show up and keep his mouth shut. The next week I went totally off the grid. No social media, no family group chats, nothing. I just needed to breathe, to get some space. I stayed close to home, hit the gym, read at coffee shops, took longer walks. Nobody recognized me, and honestly, it was a relief. It felt like I was finally washing away years of crap, shedding this whole persona they'd built for me. The bank account, the quiet brother, the invisible guy that was all them. But silence only lasts so long. 6 days after the wedding blew up, it all came crashing down. It was evening, I'd just gotten some takeout and sat down when my buzzer went nuts. I wasn't expecting anyone. Our building has a camera, so I checked the screen, thinking it was probably some delivery guy at the wrong apartment. It was Emily. Hair all messed up, makeup smeared, arms crossed tight like she was barely holding it together. She was clutching her phone, the screen still lit up, looked like she'd been staring at something over and over. I just froze. She buzzed again, and again. Then she looked right at the camera. Adrian, she whispered, her voice barely making it through the speaker. I know you're watching. I just stood there, totally numb. I had no idea what to feel. It wasn't exactly anger, and I wasn't feeling sorry for her either. It was this slow, weird mix of being lost, feeling disconnected, plus this sharp thing I couldn't put my finger on. I need to talk to you, she said, and her voice kinda broke. Please. After a second, I pushed the button. The door unlocked with a click. A few minutes later, she was standing in my hallway, arms still folded, and her eyes were all over the place, like she didn't know where she was. I didn't ask her to sit down, didn't offer her anything to drink. I just leaned against the wall, waiting. She didn't say anything right away, just stared at me. You really did it, she finally said, almost like she was amazed. I stayed quiet. You actually canceled everything. Yep. You didn't even tell us. You told me I wasn't welcome. Her lips sort of twitched. I couldn't tell if she was mad or felt bad. That wasn't me, that was Mom. You didn't stop her. She opened her mouth, then closed it. It wasn't like I could. You could have called me, you could have texted, you could have said, Adrian, I want you there. But you didn't. She looked down at the floor. I thought you'd just show up anyway. That hurt more than I wanted to admit, not because I'd even thought about it, I hadn't, but because it proved something I'd always kinda known. They didn't see me as a person with any boundaries, just a sure thing, the guy who shows up, pays, and doesn't make a fuss. Did you ever even plan on paying me back? I asked, my voice quieter now. She didn't answer right away, and then she said, no, simple, honest, and just awful. I took a deep breath. So, Emily, what were you doing here? She glanced up right at me. I wasn't so sure I bought it. Everything went quiet, like really quiet. I just stared at her, taking in her face. I saw her jaw twitch a little and all the stress and shame, but also that stubborn pride that wouldn't let her crack. She seemed smaller, not in size, but in everything. The girl who used to own any room we were in, who everyone always looked at, the one who loved all that attention. Now she was just there, not broken, but real. Do you regret it? I asked her. She kind of jumped. What, the wedding? No, the text. Her lips started to tremble just a tiny bit. I didn't write it, Adrian, but I let it happen. That was about as close as I was gonna get to an apology. I just nodded like, all right. She took a step like she wanted to say more, but then her phone buzzed. She peeked at it, and I could practically see her taking in whatever message popped up. Then she looked back up at me. "Jordan's family thinks you're unstable," she said like it was nothing. "Let them. You aren't even gonna defend yourself." "Nope." Her eyebrows came together. "Why not?" I just shrugged. "Because I don't owe them anything, not anymore. Not you, not Mom, not anyone who saw me as a walking ATM." Emily took a step back, her arms falling a little. "So that's it, you're just over it?" I just looked at her for a long time. "No, I'm just even." She didn't say anything, just stood there in the middle of my place, looking around like she was trying to grab onto something. But there wasn't anything here for her to hold on to anymore. It wasn't regret or feeling good or even mad. It was more like being still, like I just stopped waiting for something that would never happen and decided to do what I had to. Finally, I told her you should go. She paused, then agreed with a little nod. She headed for the door. Before she touched the handle, she stopped and said, "I don't know how we can get past this." I didn't say a word. She left, and for the first time ever, I let her. After Emily was gone, the silence in my place just settled like it always did. I stood there for a bit looking at the closed door, half expecting her to come back, to knock again, to say something, anything at all, to change how this had ended. But she didn't. She just left. And I finally got it. She wasn't the only one. That night, I made up my mind. I wasn't going to keep being part of this family the way they wanted me to. I wasn't going to be the quiet one, the one holding everything together, the money tree they only bothered with when things went south. I wasn't going to hang around waiting for a weak apology that wasn't coming. I needed to cut it off completely. Not in anger, not in some kind of bad mood. Just honestly. The next morning, I got up early, made some coffee, sat down with my laptop, and started writing a message. It wasn't for Emily, and it wasn't for Mom. It wasn't even for Jordan's stuck-up family. It was for the whole extended clan. Every cousin, every aunt and uncle, even some of the cousins I barely knew who only ever saw my name at weddings and funerals. The email's subject line was super straightforward. "A few things you should know." Inside, I just spilled everything. I explained, with zero anger, exactly what went down. How I'd paid for the majority of the wedding, like $22,000 total deposits, vendor costs, upgrades, all because they asked me to chip in. Then my own family uninvited me, all for show. I canceled everything that was legally my problem and in my name, since they'd made it super clear I wasn't welcome. I made it crystal clear there was no drama, no drunken meltdown, no petty payback. Just a total withdrawal of my support. I included the receipts, invoices, and screenshots, not to be a show-off or embarrass anyone, just to show the cold, hard facts. I wasn't gonna let Jordan's parents make up some sob story about a jealous brother without people knowing the whole truth. I wrapped up the email like this. I don't need anyone to take sides. I just wanted you to know where I stood, calmly, without all the years of twisting the story and gaslighting that usually happens in these kinds of situations. I truly wish Emily and Jordan all the best. I hope they find the happiness they deserve. I just couldn't be involved anymore. Then I hit send and closed my computer. I didn't hang around for replies. I didn't care who was gossiping, who was pissed, who just blew it off and went back to their brunch. I wasn't doing it for praise. I did it because for once I needed to have my own back, not theirs. The aftermath started immediately. Around midday, my phone buzzed again. Surprisingly, it wasn't loaded with negativity, but messages from a few cousins I hardly knew. Private messages, too. I had no clue. Seriously, I'm sorry. "If you want to get a drink sometime, hit me up. I'm on Team Adrian. We all pretty much knew they weren't treating you right. None of us spoke up. That was our bad. I didn't reply to most of them. I was thankful, though. But this wasn't about getting their approval. It wasn't about torching everything for a crowd to cheer. It was about getting away from a life where I was supposed to shut up and pretend everything was okay." Naturally, Mom eventually chimed in, too. A long, rambling email filled with excuses and weak apologies. We didn't want things to get out of hand. Jordan's family was putting a lot of pressure on us. You should have communicated better. Family is about forgiving. She even tried playing the feelings card. You know your father would be devastated to see us like this. I didn't even finish reading it. I just archived it and blocked her number. I wasn't mad. I wasn't even wounded anymore. I just had nothing left to offer her. The real kicker happened about a week later, although I didn't find out until my Aunt Carla called, nearly choking with laughter. Apparently, Jordan's family, so worried about what things looked like, hadn't exactly loved the wedding mess being made public. It wasn't a leak on my part, but some distant cousin of Jordan's, I swear I've never even met the guy, blew up the whole thing on Facebook. I mean, seriously, the details were brutal, totally humiliating. A local gossip rag picked it up, then it hit a bigger news site. Boom, wedding disaster. 100 grand down the drain, an empty hall, and a whole bunch of pissed-off guests. Jordan's family was beyond embarrassed. They were furious. Their perfect image shattered. They talked about suing, but nothing ever happened. See, all the contracts were in my name, so legally I was good. Jordan and Emily, things went south fast after that. Whispers, tension, just this awful resentment hanging in the air. 6 months later, they were splitting up. I didn't exactly cheer, you know. Divorce sucks. It hurts even when the people involved are total jerks, completely self-absorbed. But honestly, deep down, I knew the truth. Their whole marriage was built on nothing, on lies, on this sense of entitlement. When things finally fell apart, they were completely blindsided. As for me, I just moved on, got a new job, left the city. I needed a fresh start, someplace nobody knew my history. I built a new life. It's simpler, quieter, but it's actually mine. I stopped doing things just because people expected it. I stopped taking calls that only came when someone needed a favor. I stopped making excuses for people who never did the same for me. And finally, I started actually living. I actually started living, you know. I traveled all over, got into photography, and met people who liked me for me, not what I could do for them. Late at night, though, I'd sometimes think about my family back home, wondering if they ever really got why I left. I'd picture them at those holiday dinners with that empty chair staring them in the face, whispering about how different I'd become, how cold. Maybe they did understand, but honestly, it's more likely they just pretended I wasn't there. Families like mine are pros at sweeping things under the rug, but it didn't really matter anymore. I wasn't some phantom they could call up whenever they felt like it. I was free. And this time it wasn't because they let me be. I made it happen, and I haven't looked back since.